Ready, everybody? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody who's here with us today. And I see we have a fine crew down there looking on today for a little while at least. Want to, first of all, call everyone to order. This will be the April 30th public meeting. The first thing to do is to approve the agenda as presented. I will entertain a motion to that effect. Moved by Councillor Akers, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Are there any additions to the agenda? Beyond, I know we have two here representing amendments. They are already in the package, but apparently there have been some slight wording changes that you see there. I don't know whether there's anything else to add to the agenda at this point from anybody. Hearing not, call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Moving to the agenda then, the first thing would be the minutes of the public meeting of April the 16th, 2013. Are there any errors or omissions on the minutes of April 16th? Just errors or omissions. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Business arising from the minutes of April 16th. Any particular business arising? And I'd ask that you refer to the item by its number, if there's any. Going once? Twice? All right, it's sold. We will move along. The next item, proclamations and council. We have a number today of proclamations. They are listed in an order on the agenda, and we're going to go down through them in the order that they're listed, if that's acceptable to everybody today. And we have a number of them. It goes to show that spring is here. It's a busy time of year, and we love doing this kind of thing because it recognizes, quite frankly, all of the tremendous things that are actually occurring and going on in our community. The first proclamation today is a proclamation from the Multiple Sclerosis Society, and it is about Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. Zita Kavanaugh Taylor, where are you? You're down there. If you want to come up, I'm going to get you to come up with me. I'm going to read the proclamation into the record, give you an opportunity to speak to everybody, and tell us a little bit, Zita, about what's going on for Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month this month. Okay? And we're going to get you actually to use this. Who's this young, fine-looking gentleman with you here today?
This is my son, Alexander Taylor.
Hello, Alexander Taylor. How you doing? This is Alexander, everybody. The youngest elected official in the history of the city, right here today. You're 4 years old. Oh, and we're going to get him, talking. All right, we're going to get Mommy to talk now in a minute, okay? All right, we'll read this first. Here we go. Whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often disabling neurological disease affecting an estimated 55,000 to 75,000 Canadians, and whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms vary widely and may lead to problems with numbness, coordination, vision, and speech, as well as extreme fatigue and even paralysis. And whereas there is no known cause of or cure for multiple sclerosis, and whereas the MS Society of Canada, founded in 1948, is the only national voluntary organization in Canada that supports both MS research and services for people with MS and their families. And whereas the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada has provided more than $132 million for MS research for over 60 years, as well as a wide range of programs and services for people with MS and social action. And whereas the MS Carnation campaign will take place this month in our community to fund MS research and services. And whereas the dedication and commitment of the supporters and volunteers here today could only make this possible. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Randy Sims of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim this month, the month of May, to be MS Awareness Month for the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada in the City of Mount Pearl, to which I will now affix my name. And Zita, if you would be so kind, I'm going to get you to use this and tell us a little bit about your plans for Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month.
Okay. Thank you. May is MS Awareness Month, and we do have our Carnation campaign, and we do have our Super City Walk, and that's hosted here at the Reed Centre in Mount Pearl. And we do have a MS information session down at City of St. John's, May 9th from 7 to 9:30. It's open to the public, and there's 4 guest speakers. First guest speaker is Jenna Brown, the MS nurse. Second one will be Susan Ralph, paratransit coordinator to GoBus, and myself on Living with MS, and our vice chair, Jennifer Bonnell, and she'll be talking on the MS Society of Canada and the chapter and what we offer to people living with MS and how you can get involved with us. And on May the 22nd, we have an open house in at the Health Science Center right across from the neurology clinic. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Nita, and we're going to pass this along to you and Alexander. Let's get a picture up front. Come on, Alexander. And is this a flag, by the way, for us to fly?
Yes.
All right, come on. We're going to stage a photo with Alexander here. All right? Well, we're going to try to. Okay, Alexander, we're going to get you. Hold this. You hold that, okay? Right like that. And I'm just going to hold this. I don't know how, this is too big to open up, is it? But I'm hiding, Alexander? We'll do it behind you, Alexander. How about that? Get it the right way. Hold it upside down. Let's flip it. There you go. We're going to do it like this now. What do you think? Take a photo. Take a photo. This is a good one.
Just one more.
Alexander, there's always one more.
We got to get one with City Scout.
And everybody's going to say, who's that cute looking guy? Nobody is going to say, what a nice flag. The cute looking guy is me, by the way. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Alexander. And thank you. We will fly this for you for the month of May. Absolutely. We'll be delighted. Thank you very much. I'm going to give this to you now. I'm not going to try and control. Bye, guys. 2 weeks to do this. Okay. 4 years old, going on 24. That's how that works. Well, that's great. Our next proclamation, Council, that we're going to sign today is one that we've had the honor of doing many, many times. We always look forward to it. I think it's fair to say this one is near and dear and special to our hearts. This has to do with Mount Pearl Youth Week. You'll see down here today we have the members of the Youth Action Team with us today, including the chairperson, Amanda Mansfield. Wave at us, Amanda. I'm going to get you to come on up with me, if you would. And what I'm going to do is read the proclamation into the record, just as we did the last one. And then I'm going to get you to tell us a little bit about what's actually going to go on, okay, during the Mount Pearl Youth Week, which is May 12th to 18th. The proclamation reads as follows, Council. Whereas recreation benefits individuals, families, neighborhoods, and communities, and the City of Mount Pearl provides high-quality programs and leisure opportunities for residents to lead healthy, active lives through recreation and to make our community a great place to live, work, and play. And whereas there is an increasing interest in youth development through recreation in Canada that is founded on a substantial and growing body of research to support the role of recreation in the positive development of youth. And whereas Canadian youth are often unrecognized for the valuable contributions they make to communities and Canada's social, economic, and civic landscape. And whereas meaningful youth engagement through recreation emphasizes access, equity, and social justice and leads to positive youth development. And whereas Youth Week reminds us all of the valuable contributions that recreation and parks can make to youth development and that youth can make to community development. And further, that Mount Pearl Youth Week is endorsed by the City of Mount Pearl, the Mount Pearl Youth Opportunity Fund Foundation, the Youth Action Team, and the network of agencies and individuals committed to the positive development of youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in recognition of these benefits and values, and to provide a focal point within the year for increasing awareness, that I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, hereby proclaim May 12th to 18th as Mount Pearl Youth Week here in the City of Mount Pearl. I shall affix my signature to that end, And Amanda, I'm going to ask you to take this microphone from me and tell us about all your plans for Youth Week this year.
So the only thing that's not on the poster here that we're going to do during Youth Week is collecting cans in about 3 streets. We're going to have a food drive. We had one earlier this year during Frosty Festival, and it was extremely successful. The city really responds well to the food drives that we have, and we had a full trunk full of food, and it was amazing. On Monday, we start with a debate here in council chambers, and this is really well done with all the students from different schools. We're actually having the junior highs compete this year for the first time, which is going to be awesome. There's many students within schools in Mount Pearl that even come up to me because they know I'm involved with the Youth Week and the Youth Action Team, and they're asking me, when is the debate? I really want to get involved with it. It's a really fun time, and people do recognize that, and students really enjoy it. On Tuesday, we will be having the Quidditch and Dodgeball event. There's a lot of Harry Potter fans in the city. They really enjoy that, and the Dodgeball gets everyone who maybe they're not so up on the rules of Quidditch, and they'll be able to participate as well. On Wednesday, the Focus on Youth Awards happens, and that's a great event. I'm sure everyone here has been there, and it's really awesome. It really shows how much opportunity the youth in the city have. It's truly amazing to see the youth we have in the city and what they're capable of doing, and we see little bits of that through the musical performances, the speeches. Everything is just showcased very well during that event. On Thursday, we will be having our Ruckus show. So we have an amazing lineup of bands this year. Black and the Cursed Sun is playing, Livewire is playing, Silent November is playing, and Rocket Ship is playing. These bands are really well known. Some of them have participated in our shows before, and we always get a huge crowd out for that, and we're really looking to get everyone out this year. We're getting more involved with our social media because that's how you get the crowds nowadays, and that should be really well done. Friday, we're going to have a free skate at the Glacier. Last year, we had a huge turnout for this event, and the kids really love getting active, and we will see a very good turnout this year, I assume, as well. We want to thank the Youth Opportunity Fund for being in partnership with the City of Mount Pearl on the Youth Week for 2013. And we're really looking forward to giving the youth something else to do in the city and showing them what we can do and giving them a chance to come out and really just being appreciative for all they do in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, very much. We want to wish you the very best of luck with Youth Week this year. We're going to get a snap taken out here, and I want all of this crew in here. We'll take the poster with us as well. Good job. Yeah. We're going to get you all up here, Amanda. You got to stick with me now.
You gotta get a snap to it.
Somebody to hold this poster for us.
People on the other side probably.
All right. And everybody, well, some of you can actually jump up on the little stand if you want to. Nobody wants to do that?
I think you need to get, you need to get,
Yeah, we
you
need
guys can jump.
All right, who are the tall guys? Let's get the tall guys.
Guys can get up on the short step here.
Tall guys. There you go.
There you go.
Stand in the back. There you
Now
go.
we got it.
Come on in closer. That's wonderful.
A lot of activities here, Your Worship.
There's a lot of activities, a lot of things underway. We all look forward to the Focus on Youth Awards. It's such a tremendous program and night. Most of us try not to miss it. Most of us even come back from golf trips to go to it. I'm just saying. I've heard that there's people prepared to do that. And I even know one guy that's doing it. Coming back from a golf trip. He's a hero in my world. It's me. All right. We are going to enter into the record our third proclamation today. This has to deal with, and it's called, I believe the acronym is NAOSH, N-A-O-S-H, NAOSH, which stands for North American Occupational Safety and Health. The proclamation council reads as follows. Whereas the goal of NAOSH Week activities and events is to focus the attention of all stakeholders on this important topic and to educate each other with positive attitudes and behaviors at work, at home, and in the community. And whereas it is imperative that employers, employees, and the general public be aware of the importance of preventing illness and injury in the workplace. And whereas during the North American Occupational Safety and Health Week of May 5th through to the 11th, the City of Mount Pearl will be mobilizing in an effort to increase employees' understanding of the importance of occupational safety and health, to raise the awareness of the role and contribution of safety, health, and environmental professionals, and to reduce workplace injuries and illness by encouraging new safety and health activities and interest in North American Occupational Safety and Health Week. Now, therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim May 5th to the 11th as North American Occupational Safety and Health Week here in the City of Mount Pearl. I will affix my signature to that, and I'm going to invite Deputy Mayor Jim Locke, if you would speak to council about this particular activity. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you indicated, NAOSH Week is May 5th to the 10th, and there are several activities planned for city employees this year. These involve awareness and training sessions on the use of AEDs, automated electronic defibrillators. I think we have those at all of our sites right now, which is good to know. The Cancer Society will be in to speak to staff on the health issues caused by UV rays and helpful preventative measures. A lunch and learn session is going to be held on ladder safety, and that'll take place at the depot. And there's also be a session on the safe use of fire extinguishers. And my understanding is that each employee will have the opportunity to discharge an extinguisher in a controlled environment, because it's not as easy as it looks. Speaking from experience, having used one, you know how to properly engage that and discharge it. So what we do, as you said, Your Worship, we're encouraging all residents to make safety a priority in the workplace. And remember, safety begins with me. We all take ownership of this. We've got to take responsibility for our workplaces, not only for our own safety, but certainly for the safety of our fellow employees. And I'm quite proud about the city and the record that we have here for our safety record. And I know in all the places that there's development ongoing right now, it's nice to see all the safety measures that are employed there. So we do take it very seriously. So this is a great week, and great initiatives being held all week here at the city during May the 5th to May the 10th. I just want to mention as well, Your Worship, that this Sunday past, was the National Day of Mourning for workers injured or killed on the job. And there was a wreath-laying ceremony at the Confederation Building. And just to note that both the city as well as our union was represented there. We had members. I know Councillor Dave Aker was there on behalf of the city to lay a wreath, and we also had some union members as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, very much. Yes, it's an important element and aspect of our lives, our working lives. So we're honored and delighted, obviously, to be a part of NAOSH Week. Again this year, May 5th through to the 11th, 2013. Thank you for that. Council, the final proclamation we have today is a special one. It's historic in nature. And I can't recall whether we've signed this proclamation before or not. I want to welcome to the chamber today Lieutenant Commander Shannon Lewis Simpson, who's down there in uniform today. She is commanding officer of HMCS Cabot. I'm going to invite you to come forward if you would, Lieutenant Commander, and I'm going to again read the proclamation into the record and then invite you to address council on some of the plans associated with this particular proclamation. It reads as follows. Whereas the city of Mount Pearl shares the naval heritage of Newfoundland and Labrador, and its citizens played a pivotal role in the Battle of the Atlantic, the longest campaign of World War II. And whereas each year, on the first Sunday of May, Canada commemorates the loss of more than 4,300 sailors, aircrew, and merchant mariners who gave their lives in the service of their country. And whereas serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces uphold the legacy of the Battle of the Atlantic and face today's security challenges with pride and professionalism. Therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim April 29th through to May 5th, 2013, as Battle of the Atlantic Week. The White Ensign will be flown over City Hall to remember those lost and those who protect our peace and prosperity in the world today. Lieutenant Commander, would you tell us a little bit about what you may have planned beyond this for the week?
I certainly will, and thank you so much, Council. Is this on? Yeah,
Yep.
okay. It's an honor to be here. This is the first time that we presented to Council, Your Worship, so I do appreciate it. We presented to the City Council meeting yesterday in St. John's as well, and I was delighted to do so and delighted to be here with you today. Just have a few notes about the Battle of the Atlantic. For 5 years, 8 months, and 5 days, Canadian and British naval ships defended merchant convoys hunted by German and Italian navies and deadly U-boat wolf packs. When German submarines could not surface in the harsh conditions of the North Atlantic, the weather created a sheer, unmitigated hell. Over 5,000 Allied ships were lost to the enemy, almost 3,000 by U-boat attack. 1 out of every 10 merchant sailors perished in this battle, which is fitting following Sunday's proclamation as well. Winston Churchill himself said that the thought of losing the Battle of the Atlantic was the only thing that ever frightened him. Not everyone in Britain was bombed by the Luftwaffe. Not everyone lost someone killed in a particular campaign, but everyone in the war-torn island nation felt the effects of rationing. And Britain could have been starved into submission if the Battle of the Atlantic was not won. The turning point of the Battle of the Atlantic for the Allies in May 1943, what became known as Black May to the Germans, enabled the D-Day invasions and effectively ended the war in Europe. This week, the Royal Canadian Navy, the Royal Canadian Air Force, and the Merchant Navy will remember the 4,352 Canadians and Newfoundlanders and Labradorians lost in the Battle of the Atlantic. They did their duty despite every risk. A service of remembrance will be held in St. Thomas's Anglican Church in St. John's on Sunday, May 5th at 10:30, followed by a service of remembrance at the War Memorial, the National War Memorial in St. John's at noon. And all citizens are encouraged to attend. We respectfully ask that the city commemorate with us, and we are thankful for flying the White Ensign over your City Hall this week, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Commander. We are honored and humbled by the service of our men and women in uniform, and to fly that White Ensign is something that we do with a tremendous amount of appreciation and pride. We thank you personally for your service, and certainly the service of all of our men and women who do so much to protect us and enhance our democracy. We sit here today because of the sacrifice that they made oh so long ago, and if we fail to remember, we will surely forget and possibly repeat. Let's pray to God that never ever happens. Thank you for this.
It's my pleasure as well to be able to take a senior officer or whatnot. We'll be visiting Admiralty House in Mount Pearl on Friday afternoon. We'll be joined by Commander Max Howard Harvey,
Yep.
who is from Mount Pearl, of course. And
Former chair, actually.
Former
at
chair,
Admiralty
that's
House.
right.
Yep.
So I think it's important to mark the naval heritage that Mount Pearl does have as well in Admiralty House and in the many hundreds of sailors and indeed armed service personnel who live in Mount Pearl today. So we thank you very much.
We
for your
thank you
support.
very much for this. We're going to get a picture taken here. We're going to sneak out front and do it again. I don't know, it must be an election year. I love getting a picture taken. There you go. Thank you so much. Quite a history, hey?
Yeah,
Deputy
just-
Mayor.
I think it's important that we do have these memorial events. I had the privilege of taking a group of students this past Easter. We did a Second World War tour in Europe where we visited France and then through Belgium into Netherlands. And we did visit northern France. The lady mentioned about the D-Day invasion, so we visited the beaches of Normandy, and you know, it really strikes home when you visit these places and you stand. And several of my students, as we were stood on the beach on different occasions, asked me, you know, I just wonder how many young soldiers our age and men and women who served, how many actually died on this beach. You know, it really hits home. So, and they do make mention of it in the placards in Europe. In a lot of cases, the people there know our history sometimes better than we know it. You know, they truly appreciate what the Canadians and the Allied forces, but the Canadians in particular, did during the Second World War. And whenever I take students overseas, they're always touched. That's what they always say. They had no idea. They don't fully appreciate the role that Canadians did play overseas. So I think this is great, and I'm certainly going to make a point of promoting this in our school. I'd like to see as many of the young down there. And what I found in my teaching career, there's a resurgence, and we see it. I know the past couple of Remembrance Days, the turnout at our Remembrance Day services, you can see the numbers. They're growing there. And delightful to see many more young people. So to your point, you know, if you don't teach the young and they forget about it, well, then we run the risk of repeating the horrible history that we all know. So I just wanted to make that point, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for those very kind thoughts, actually. It's appreciated. That concludes all of the presentations we had. Busy day with the presentations, wasn't it? Indeed. We are going to move on to committee reports. Apologies, Councillor Paula Tessier had been scheduled to be with us today, cannot. To that end, we're going to invite the Deputy Mayor to take the floor back again, if you would, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Stoyles, you are alternate on this committee.
Some double duty here for me today.
Some
Your
double
Worship.
duty for a couple of people today. You go right ahead.
All FYIs are actually. The first
Okay.
has to do with the Family Fun Day scheduled for May the 5th in the city of Mount Pearl. Families are invited to come along to our Family Fun Day taking place at the Reed Community Centre Sunday, May 5th from 2 to 4 p.m. There will be lots of activities there, bouncy castles, crafts, live entertainment, prizes, much more. Admission is $3 per person, and all proceeds raised are going to be used to support the DARE program and the Mount Pearl Crime Prevention Community Projects. This event is hosted by the Mount Pearl Citizens Crime Prevention Committee in partnership with the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary and the City of Mount Pearl. And again, just to encourage all of our residents to get out and take part in the Family Fun Day, because the weather is just starting to feel so nice.
Yeah, it's getting there, isn't it?
It is so. Yeah. The next item, Your Worship, is the annual 20-minute makeover. And again, the whole emphasis of this, and I promote this in the school again, because in our lessons we talk about this, you know, turning back the tide, the program that the provincial government has out, you know, environmental protection, climate change, and we have to think globally but act locally. And I keep telling our youth that we got to take responsibility for our own activities. So we have 25,000 people in this city. If everybody took 20 minutes to go out and pick up a bit of garbage, trash around their property, we could eat off the streets in the city of Mount Pearl. So we have this annual event, so it runs from April 27th to June 29th. Residents, schools, businesses, groups are encouraged to lend a hand, go out for 20 minutes, pick up the litter around their homes, buildings, neighborhoods, parks, walkways. The city offers free bags at the Reed Community Centre, the Ken Mount Park Community Centre, and Municipal Depot. And again, thanks once again to our major sponsor. They're there every year, Tim Hortons, and together we can help clean up our beautiful city. So that's for information purposes. Again, it started April 27th. We have a sign up here at the top of Ruth Avenue to June 29th. So we encourage groups, again, schools, any community organizations, even residents in neighborhoods. You see, you know, some Powers Pond and that, you'll see residents out cleaning up in their neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So again, just to encourage all of us to participate in that, and to remember that you know, the walkways, while the city maintains them, and the open spaces, they're not council's walkways or open spaces. They're our walkways and open spaces. So we all have a responsibility to treat them with respect and keep them clean. So keep the garbage, you know, where it should be.
It's a real challenge, and I don't know whether it's come before your committee at this point and time or not, Deputy Mayor, but I did send a note to Mr. Collins, not just dealing with the issue of cleanup, but I had a representation from a citizen, and as a result of that, I'm noticing it in an unbelievable way, and that we are going to have to come up with, and that's what I've challenged through him to your committee, to come up with a strategy for us to deal with the issue of graffiti. There is so much of it right now in our city. And like I say, I got an email from a person, and I sent it off to Jason, and said, guys, we need to take a look at this, and I'm hoping that the committee will focus on it a bit and come back with some kind of a strategic plan on how we can address this particular problem. And after reading the email from the lady, talking to Jason about it, and he tells me he's going to have it with your committee, you start seeing it. It's around so much that sometimes you lose sight of it. All of a sudden, in the last week or so in particular, driving around the city, guys, there's not a flat surface that somebody hasn't tagged with some kind of foolishness, I don't know how we solve that. I know that the community at large is going to jump on the 20-minute cleanup campaign. They always do. But I just put it in your ear that
Sure.
We need your committee to really take a look at what we can do strategically to try and positively affect this and clean up this graffiti. But anyway,
Well, it's
I'm
a
sorry,
challenge, as you know, for any city.
it's a challenge for everybody. It's
Everywhere.
not easy.
Everywhere it's an issue. And I know that any sort of profanity or whatever that's sprayed, I think the most effective way is you got to get on it right away. So as soon as it's done, paint it over. As soon as it's done, paint it over. You basically got to wear them down, But these artists that, because some of the graffiti is fantastic artwork, in some of the cities that, that we visited, even, in Mount Pearl. It's good work, but others is just sort of is vandalism. So, valid point.
It's kind of vandalism. I think we need to get 2 or 3 cameras that can be mobile and move around, and let's catch some of these people. And let them know that you might be tagging one that's being watched right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's...
Absolutely. Well, it speaks back to, remember the facing up on Signal Hill, the young boy that they built the new structure up there, and within short order there was a tag or some work graffiti done up there, and action was taken. So, but certainly, Your Worship will bring that back to committee and investigate to see what strategies have been employed elsewhere and what's
see
working.
if we can get something
Absolutely.
to work for us. Yep,
Absolutely.
That is the prayer, the request. Your committee, you guys will be on that.
Duly noted. All right, the next item, Your
No, you
Worship, is good news. It's congratulations extended to our newest Citizen of the Year for 2012. Miss Shirley Boone was named Citizen of the Year this year. We had a lovely event, not last weekend, but the weekend before, and all the candidates this year. And I know you said it, Your Worship, and it's said that, they were all such outstanding citizens that were named there that year. So to try to pick one out, had to be a difficult task. But everyone there, when you heard what they did and how much time they put into our community, it was just heartwarming to sit through that. So I just wanted to acknowledge Miss Boone and extend a sincere congratulations to her again for the receiving of the Citizen of the Year for 2012.
All worthy, and she was certainly worthy as well.
And she gave a
Tremendous
beautiful,
work.
beautiful,
And what a beautiful address
speech.
she made.
Yeah. To her son.
We love Shirley.
Oh yeah, great, absolutely. The last item, Your Worship, for community services involves Campia. They are very active and some great work up there. I went up during the Frosty Festival, seeing what some of these little kids can do and the moves they make. It's quite impressive. So we just wanted to extend congratulations to the gymnasts of Campia as well as their coaches. They participated in the Snow Bowl, 2013 Snow Bowl Invitational in St. John's on March 22nd to the 23rd. Great competition, and there were so many first to sixth place finishes, actually too many to mention. So we just wanted to send out a sincere congratulations to all, again, all the athletes and all the coaches for all the hard work and the dedication that they show to Campia Gymnastics.
Excellent.
So I'll stay on my feet. That's it
Yeah,
for community services.
that's corporate. Our community. We'll move to corporate services.
All
And
right, change my hat. I now have on the corporate services hat. Just 2 quick items here. The first is a request to travel to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities annual conference being held this year in Vancouver from the 31st of May to June the 3rd. And we're recommending approval for our mayor and Councillor Dave Aker to attend the annual conference. And I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Raker. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the next item, Your Worship, are the invoices for council approval. As you can see, there's 15 listed here, totaling $2,860,761.08, and I move that the amounts be accepted as presented.
Question.
Moved and seconded. Question, Councillor Stoyles?
Just number one, Alfonso, the water testing. Is Alfonso doing our water testing now for everything in the city, or is this just a special project that they were doing? I'm just curious.
For the time being, yeah, but the UTM crews are being trained to do the water testing on an ongoing basis, so
Yes,
until
why
that
not?
happens.
This is being shifted from planning over to public works.
It was. It's been done in Public Works, or actually through engineering and UTM now for just about last year or so, I think. So it came over with INSET last year or so, but during budget time we had some discussions about how we were going to do that on a go forward, and I think at the budget it was brought up that we were going to then bring it into UTM and do the testing there, but that we needed the appropriate training.
Absolutely.
So Manager of Engineering, Tino Days, just told me that training is ongoing, and once that's done, then we'll be back in-house.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at all or comments regarding items 1 through 15? Hearing none, we will call it. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And that is it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
That is it for you. We'll move on to engineering services. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item that we have this evening is an update once more on the multiplex project. The storm retention system has now been installed, and the final geothermal well drilling will occur once the trusses have been delivered and installed on the site. That's expected to happen around the month of May, so that's coming up real soon. The air handling unit, that's the unit that you'll see in the, I think there's an orange tarp on the storage facility that we've constructed to the side of the Reed Centre there. That's where that air handling unit has been delivered and stored for the time being. Bay New Plan, our consultant on the project, have already done an inspection of the unit. It seems to be in order, and that will be installed once the suspended slab is poured. The erection of the steel is currently ongoing, as well as the connections to the existing Reed Centre. So as we continue to say, it starts to look more and more like a building each and every day, it seems. The suspended slab formwork, as well as the work on the balcony scaffolding, is currently ongoing. And just as a little look ahead, I guess, the underground plumbing within the facility is about to begin, work on that. And the pouring of the second floor of the facilities area and the re-roofing of the existing Reed Centre is scheduled to proceed in May. So the construction continues to move ahead at a good pace, and certainly we're on target to achieve completion in the summer of 2014. So all is good with the multiplex at this point.
Just a question for you, Councillor. The re-roofing of the existing Reed Centre, will that have an impact on operations at the Reed Centre? Do we know?
At this point, I don't expect it'll have a major impact. It may have a minor impact on certain days, but certainly there'll be some noise perhaps in the area, perhaps a little bit of a smell depending on what material is being used on the roof itself. But all efforts going to be made to keep.
We're not going to have to close the facility, as well, I guess. Thing.
That's no, we're not going to close the facility, but all efforts will be kept to keep any disturbance to a minimal level.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The second item on our agenda is concerning the Team Guizhou softball hut. Final inspections are certainly ongoing, and we're expecting that within approximately 2 weeks there'll be a completion. So we continue to work to achieve the turnover of the building, I guess. But again, it shall be ready for the opening of the softball season, so that's good news all around. 2 weeks. Perfect.
So do we have an opening date? Cut a ribbon or anything?
Not at this point, but certainly engineering staff are working with all those involved in
Let's
the project
pick one.
to make it happen.
Well, I'm pretty wimpy at that.
Do that anyway.
The ceremonial first pitch, eh?
But why don't we pick a date and drive staff crazy?
We could certainly try to do that.
My suggestion is early June, when May 24th is out of the way and softball's up and running, and just a suggestion, sometime in June might be good.
Early June.
So we won't do a grand opening until there's been a soft opening, is your idea?
Well, no,
I like your thinking.
well, there's two things we could do. I think maybe on the first night that softball is played down there officially, and this is up for the league, I think, to bring this to the city, there perhaps should be a ceremonial first pitch thrown or something like that, as this is the inaugural use of the field. But perhaps we're not only celebrating the field, we're celebrating the clubhouse, and maybe we could have a ceremony or an open house or something like that, you know, a little bit later on after the season starts. Get the kinks worked out of the building. Give as much advance notice to everybody as possible, not only the softball people, perhaps other members of the community to come on down for a little celebration. When that could be, doesn't matter to me, but I'm thinking on a softball night, I think if you don't coordinate that first, one might get in the way of the other. You know what I mean? You know, Sunday afternoon, Your Worship, might be a good time when they're down there celebrating one of their Super Sundays where they raise funds for charities. There's a lot of softball players engaged. But I think you need to have that discussion with the men's softball league. Yeah.
We'll leave that with community services, and they'll talk to the softball league, and we'll organize something. I think a grand opening in early June is a good idea, and certainly something for the first time somebody plays on that field. I don't know, nobody's done that yet, have they?
They played last year.
Did they play on that field at all last year?
I don't believe they actually played last year, did they?
On
They
that
did?
field?
Emergency
Oh, right.
Emergency softball had to be played down there because of Tropical Storm Sandy, which took out all the lighting and whatnot, the nets. and
Okay, well, that don't count.
That don't count.
We want to know what the opening date is for men's softball, and we want to do something that evening.
Ceremonial first pitch of sorts.
Well, ceremonial first pitch, and we want to do something to recognize it if we can. Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Your Worship, our final item this evening is a proposal from Xylem, and that's to renew the maintenance agreement for the city's lift stations, of which there are 7. You'll see that they're listed there in the package: Wyatt Boulevard, Kenmount Community Center, Clyde Avenue, Lintros Place, Admiralty Wood, Emberley Place, and Birch Avenue. The proposed cost from the company is $1,690.13 plus HST. That's per inspection per station. The committee reviewed the proposal, and it was determined that the cost is consistent with what we've paid in previous years. So the recommendation from the committee is to approve the approval of a preventative maintenance agreement with Xylem for 7 lift stations at a cost of $1,690.13 plus HST per inspection per station, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Carried. That concludes engineering. Thank you very much. We are off to Planning and Land Use Development Committee. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next 3 items are proposed development regulations amendments, numbers 13, 14, and 15. 2 of the 3 that were in the kit have been modified slightly just to pick up a little bit on the accuracy. So those are the 2 paper handouts you have there, I think, for 13 and 15. I just wanted to say up front that we went through the same processes for all 3 amendments. We issued notices of motion. We went through a public consultation process with each of these, which required either, well, typically in this case there was no notification of the neighbors, but advertising in the telegram, advising our MHAs and whatnot. And we scheduled briefing sessions in all 3 cases, and we didn't receive any negative or otherwise any other commentary associated with any of them. So the first one is a proposed development regulation change, number 13, as it relates to furniture, appliance, showroom. It's a parking amendment. Basically, would install within the use with a parking ratio typically for every 50 square meters, 1 parking spot, and is to recognize the nature of certain businesses, typically like furniture sales places and whatnot, that maybe the amount of parking that's required is not as intensive as you might see, for example, at a grocery store. This amendment will allow council to consider such uses going forward, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question or comment?
Question.
Councillor Stoyles.
So it's not the building itself that is going to be what's in the building, like if it's a furniture store today and a grocery store tomorrow, the regulation will change per the building. It's not going to be the building. Like a building on Topsail Road is not going to be regulated now to meet this, criteria or the new regulations. And then if a new business goes in there tomorrow that's not applicable to that, they won't meet, if the business changes, if it's a furniture store today and tomorrow is a grocery store, they will, even though it's on the same parking lot, they will have to meet a different criteria and meet the application to
Councillor Stoles is quite right. You know, this is a different ratio of parking. So, for example, if a building up there does get approved, a certain amount of development based on one parking spot for every 50 square meters, because it is a showroom use. Later on, the owner of that building has to realize that if this then becomes a property that he or she wishes to sell, to become, for example, a grocery store or whatnot, and if the regulations say for that type of a use, it's one parking spot for every 20 square meters, well, basically they may have over-intensified. We have a request from an owner of a property who would like to develop the property more based on showroom use. And that is, as part of our deliberations, that was a concern for us. I'm okay with it. I think the committee was, as long as that owner realizes that that's not going to become your standard grocery store down the road unless that 1 in 20 ratio is met. So I don't know if this is buyer beware, but when you get your approvals, it's like the issue we had with S&S Supply up at Tops of Road in terms of parking equipment on the front lawns and all that. At the end of the day, you knew the rules up front by which you were approved for that use. If you know that up front, there should be no complaining down the road. So this intensive development that may occur at this site may not open up possibilities down the road for development in a different manner. But generally speaking, that's the way at the higher level this always works, right? If you go to an area that's got a certain type of use, take where heavyweight fitness was going, that type of a use, a fitness use, is not necessarily appropriate according to our regulations. And we've gone back to committee now and we're investigating what the parking ratio should be for a fitness use. And we're basing that on past experience, past negative experience, I might add.
50 square meters, where did this number come from?
I believe it's based on other jurisdictions.
Okay.
Director Yevchek, do you want to add to that? No, I nailed it, sorry.
Worship? Oh, sorry.
Okay, I was just going to finish off on my question. So the only time that this showroom would really be overcrowded when they have the big blowout sales and things like that, they probably wouldn't have enough parking if they were having a one-day sale or a couple of times a year. They probably would be still, or could be, overcrowded. That's the other option as well. I mean, certain times of the year they have remotes in certain locations selling off from the showroom and that. And I'm just wondering if, when they do that kind of thing, should they get a special permit to have their sales?
It'd be hard to control that because, I mean, the same thing happens at the Avalon Mall during Christmas. I mean, you can't regulate that.
There's no tax day.
Yeah, so I'm just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It'd be tough to control that.
Anyway, I don't have a problem with it, as long as it's specifically stipulated that it's for the showroom only, and if the zoning changes, they will have to come back to change the criteria of their business.
Mr. Yevchek and then Councillor Ledwell.
Just a point of clarification, Your Worship. Certainly, the way the system works, when we get a use on a piece of property, we take a look at it to make sure it meets the parking standards. If a new use comes in called a change of use, and this, I go back to the heavyweight situation, and this is exactly what it was, we then take a look at the use and look at things like parking standards, and that's just one of the criteria we look at. But if they don't meet the parking requirements, then they can't go there. I mean, it's clearly the case. In terms of these type of uses, showroom uses, for the most part, if you really picture them, they use a lot of space in terms of displaying the furniture, displaying the appliances. And they're not a standard grocery store setup, not a standard convenience store or small shop. And so the request from the individual who's seeking this text amendment was that really your parking standards are too excessive and creating a problem. So when we took a look at it, indeed, in a number of jurisdictions across this country, they do have
this is kind of this is the requirement they use. The other point I want to just make, and I'll sit down, is that in these buildings, we're not only looking at the whole building as a showroom use, we take a look at what's actually in the building. So part of the building may be showroom use, part of the building may be office use, part of the building may be even a shop use. And there's that combination of uses that creates the parking on the site. Yeah, cumulative, and then that's where the regulations read, and that's where the regulations go.
Okay, Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I just want to concur what the Director was pointing out there. The simplest way to look at this is from a use perspective. It allows us to be able to work with a business. If they're going into a site, as the Director says, that was once a garbage or a grocery store, it will allow them not to have to deal with the same standard of parking if their use is not going to cause the same sort of, activity around the building, the same need for parking. So it just allows us to be a bit more flexible, I guess, with different uses within the same facility.
How does it work with the warehouses then? You have a 24,000 square foot warehouse, and attached to it there's a small, I'll call it office complex. We have a parking standard for that. Is that also different than the one for showroom? And because I'm thinking about not the parking, I'm thinking about what happens when there's a change of use. Sorry, just
Your Worship,
challenge.
our parking standards for warehouse use is one space per 100 square meters, because again, what you're dealing with is a lot of storage, not a lot of employees. Matter of fact, when you talk to some people in the industries, they say that's still excessive, because at a lot of these warehouses, you're having really a stockpiling of a lot of equipment, and it might be a very large warehouse, but you only have 2 people involved in the warehouse. Yet we may require 10 parking spaces. Mm-hmm. If it's a warehouse and office, the warehouse portion will be 1 per 100 square meters. The office portion will be 1 per 20 square meters of office space, and that's how it's calculated.
And the same thing would apply here.
Yes, Your Worship. And if there's a change, we'll take a look at it again, and we will, go through the review to ensure that there's enough parking on these sites. It certainly becomes, I think, in answer to some of the concerns, becomes a bit more difficult, because a lot of people, when they apply for development on an existing site, they don't look usually at what the former use was. They look at a piece of property, they say good location, they got parking there, and my use should be able to go there like the previous use. But in fact, there may be different uses, different intensities of use, different groups of people coming to the site, and quite often they're a bit surprised that there are different requirements. But that's the nature of development, that's the nature of business, and in order to make sure we have adequate parking on these sites and they're not creating congestion on our streets, that's a review we have to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, or will I call it?
Just further, can I wrap up your worship?
Yeah, go ahead.
The issue really facing the city is re-intensification. Mm-hmm. As more and more of our sites are re-intensified, as business owners don't prefer to move elsewhere, they want to develop their site more intensely. We look to our past history and our experiences in terms of what the parking regulations are, which ones are appropriate. And where we don't have a history, sometimes what we do is we look at other jurisdictions who have that experience. And then over time, we have to, like in the case of heavyweight, we have to refine that. But it's all driven by use. And I guess the thing that business owners have to realize is that when you change the use, before you change the use, you've got to come to the city, because we want to make sure they have a look at whatever regulations apply to that new use.
Hear, hear.
So I'd ask you to call the question, and we'll move on to number 13, 14.
We will
Thank
do
you,
that.
Richard.
This was actually amendment number 13, right?
It was, yeah.
The furniture showroom parking amendment. It has been moved by Councillor Akers, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you. Number 14 has to do with the front yard sign amendment, so we can allow some freestanding and billboard signs in the landscape yards within the IL use zone, which is the industrial light, and that typically is Donovan's Industrial Park, as well as the Kenmount Business Park, and typically on Old Placentia Road, on Topsail Road, and whatnot. We're getting more requests to put billboards up. And basically, this will allow us to consider billboards that are proposed to go on front yards. So we are basically inserting this as a, I think the text wording says a permitted sign. So this will allow this to be done, and I'd like to move that, please.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
That was easier than the first one. Number 15 has to do with changeable message signs, and this is a relatively new technology. I believe the city has, since we brought in our regulations approximately 2 years ago, permitting changeable use signs. In a nutshell, we've allowed this typically to take place on Topsa Road. We are now being asked in other locations, for example on Commonwealth Avenue, that corridor, to be able to put changeable message signs in. What we propose to do for the city center use zone, as well as the commercial general use zone, is that this become a discretionary use of council. Currently, we would not be able to allow this. This allows council to consider it. City center is that block of land, or yes, that block of land basically that sort of emanates out from City Hall all the way over to the intersection of Ruth Avenue and Ruth and Park, Ruth Park and Commonwealth. Commercial general, although not limited to Commonwealth, it's primarily the Commonwealth Avenue area. And we'd like to put this through so council then can consider any permits that are being, or development permits that are being presented to us, typically in these areas. And of course, there's always a restriction on any of these changeable message signs, is that they cannot be, I think is it 200 meters or 150 meters within a residential zone? 60 meters within a residential zone. And this discretionary authority of council is still subject to your worship, a public consultation process for regulation 4.17, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
All right, moving right along, development permit 16 through 20 for April 15th to the 26th, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
The next item will be your residential building permits for April 13th to the 26th. The residential is in the amount of $1,491,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded?
For the same period, the permits for commercial are $86,800, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Okay, sit back and relax. I have a notice of motion.
A notice of motion.
I shall read. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will, 1. In Section 2 definitions, added the following. Off-street indoor residential parking facilities means a structure or a portion of a structure principally used or intended to be used to provide access to and space for the parking, loading, or storage of motor vehicles, and which may include bicycle spaces, but does not mean a structure providing no more than 4 parking spaces accessory to a residential use. Part 2. In Section 6, General Development Standards, add the following in alphabetical order and renumber Section 6 accordingly. 6.3. Off-street indoor residential parking standards. The parking standards for off-street indoor residential parking facilities shall be, and there's a list here, the minimum stall length shall be 5.6 meters, the minimum stall width shall be 2.6 meters, the minimum aisle width shall be 6.7 meters, the minimum center to center width of a double row with aisle in between shall be 18 meters, the minimum height clearance shall be 2.38 meters. Part 3, amend subsection 9.11.1 by adding, with the exception of off-street indoor residential parking facilities, before parking space shall mean an area of land not less than 16.3 square meters in size, capable of being used for the parking of a vehicle, without the need to move other vehicles on adjacent areas. The intention of this proposed amendment is to encourage the use of small vehicles in association with residential uses. And that's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
I have questions, but we'll wait. Okay, we're not supposed to do it on notice of motion. All right. Thank you for that. That concludes all the committee reports for the moment. We are going to new business. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be very brief this evening. I just had a word of congratulations and thanks, I guess, to the Kinsman Club. The Deputy Mayor mentioned the Citizen of the Year banquet that we all attended a week or so ago. I just wanted to congratulate and thank the Kinsman Club for hosting another classy event. Certainly very well done, and specifically, of course, Richard Levandier, who's been doing that banquet and announcing the winner for a long time now. I think for as long, certainly I can remember. He certainly shared the load a little bit with Bernie Britton and Michelle Case, the two presidents of the Kin and the Kinettes, but I think he still shouldered a fair bit of load himself. And so a word of thanks to Richard for all he's done this year and in the past, and to the Kinsmen and Kinettes for hosting another worthwhile event.
Amen to that. Thank you, sir. Councillor Stoyles.
Ditto to the Kinsman and to the new Citizen of the Year and all the nominees, of course, that were nominated. It's great to see so many organisations putting names forward. There's so many worthy candidates here within our city, and next year I'd like to see even more people nominated, because we have an awful lot of worthy candidates. It's not about winning an award, it's about being recognised by your organisation, and I think a lot of organisations don't look at it that way, and I think they need to have a different look at the Citizen of the Year, and I think we have to look at people like Richard Levandier doing something, for people like that who give so much to the community as well. Also, Your Worship, I also wanted to mention that on May 9th to the 11th, the M&L is going to be doing the symposium in Gander, and I know I will be out to it, representing the city, and they've just finished up the regional meetings all across the province, just finished the last ones up this past Sunday, and they've done something different this year. What they've done, they've tried to hold 2 regional meetings so they could bring more educational sessions and more information sessions out to the membership. So they've been trying to do regional meetings and they have done them all across the province and in Labrador, and it's great to see them getting with the grassroots people, with the elected officials. And as you know, this is a municipal election, and here in Mount Pearl and on the Avalon is normally always a large number of people coming out to run, but in rural Newfoundland they usually have difficult time getting people to run. So we're always out encouraging people, especially in rural Newfoundland, to put their name forward for municipal government. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the Deputy Mayor's acknowledgement and talking about NAIOSH Week and how important it is. And I think he aptly described where we are and where we're going this week, and it's good to see the city has a strong commitment. At the day of mourning, they mentioned that 26 people passed away this year. So it's a very solemn beginning of a week, which at the end of the week is designed to celebrate our good fortune, our safety, and the fact that we're here today, thanks in part not just to those who fought, for example, in the Battle of the Atlantic, but also for all the workplace safety improvements that have been made. 6 of those people died that last year on the site. Another 20 people died because they were injured years before, and they passed away in 2013. So we recognize our good fortune, don't we? And we learn from our past. I also want to congratulate Shirley Boone and the Kinsmen. I think she's a fine representative of the city for the next year, Citizen of the Year, and also all the other ones. The night wasn't really about winning the award, was it? It was about more just celebrating all of those people and their volunteer efforts within the city. Your Worship, on the graffiti, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I love the idea of a mobile camera. I think that is the only way with certain
More than one.
spots.
More than one. I want like 4 of them.
Well, we could say we got 20.
This is
the
true.
whole idea is to keep them guessing.
This is true.
Right?
We can
but
lie.
We need at least one.
We can lie, but we
But I
can't
hope
say.
the
We shouldn't be
committee
saying that at a public council
I hope the
meeting,
committee
should we?
does consider that, because that camera can be used just like it is out in, say, CBS, which is being used for a slightly different purpose. Garbage, graffiti garbage.
Indiscriminate
despite
dumping
the
is what.
artistic work, isn't it much the same thing?
Yes.
Abusing our environment or abusing private property
Yes.
or public property, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Challenge Cup opener is this coming Saturday, believe it or not. Soccer, thanks to artificial turf throughout the province now. 6 o'clock on Saturday. St. Lawrence is in town, so if you don't like the double blue, come on down and cheer for the black and yellow, right? And the final thing is,
Spoken like a soccer guy. Hey?
continue to receive commentary, and it's picking up again, it has to do with the left turning lane as you go north on Commonwealth Avenue. Do you realize that the left turning lane runs from the intersection at Park Avenue all the way up to the top of the hill? If you want to go straight or go right, you need to be in the right-hand lane. This is a change I think we made last year. I would like to ask, could the engineering committee have a look at it? Because the lines haven't been painted yet, and this might be a great opportunity. Quite often, you'll look up at 8:30 in the morning, going up the hill, you will see loads of cars trying to get up the hill just to turn right or go straight, and there's nobody except for 2 or 3 lined up at the lights. So I'm just wondering if that left turning lane configuration could be restored to where it was historically. I know we've had some commentary over the winter, and I'm sure it's highlighted now by the fact that there is no lines at all.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But now's our opportunity, if the committee would have a look at it, perhaps that we could, and I'm not suggesting or prejudging where you're going with it, but it's a good chance to have a look at it anyway. If you would, thank you. That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
On the traffic note, Your Worship, had another conversation in the same vein along Commonwealth, and I know I asked Director Antle this, and I had forgotten what the response was. If you're heading south down Commonwealth, where you get by the turn to turn right at Ruth Avenue, it's a right turn only. And this resident suggested, he questioned why it's a right turn only going up to Ruth, and why you can't have it both, go straight through or turn right. This gentleman was in the police force for years, and he was involved with highway safety. And he said, in my opinion, if you did that with both those lanes, you would eliminate a lot of the stacking going up the hill at rush hour traffic. You'd have 2 lanes going through the city, because he said right now, in order to go straight through the lights at Ruth and Commonwealth, you have to stay in that left lane coming down over Commonwealth. But he said if you could do it both ways, people coming off Topsail Road and turning right onto Commonwealth could continue to go straight through. They wouldn't have to try to get over in the center lane. And I remember asking Jerry Antle about this, and I forgot what he had said. But this gentleman asked me, and I said I certainly would bring it forward. He seems to think, based on his professional experience of 20 plus years on the road, that if we change that and made that a turn right and a straight through, so I'll put that back to the committee if I could, and I apologize. I know I asked before, but I just had forgotten what the reason was. The other thing, Your Worship, I just wanted to acknowledge the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association. I know that you were up to one of their banquet sessions, and I think they are probably the only, if not the only, one of the very few associations in the province that has an annual hockey banquet. It was great there to see all the kids out, and the coaches and managers and parent liaison, and of course our sponsors and all the like. So they had another great year, and I just want to tip my hat to Gonzo Bennett, the president, and the entire executive. They are known province-wide for the work they do. Our association is known not only province-wide but certainly nationwide as a very well-run minor hockey association. So again, I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly on the job that's well done, and I congratulate all those, because I know Gonzo has done his term as president. So I think Dave Edney is going to be president next year, if memory serves me correctly. Yes? Is it Dave? Do you know? Yes, that's the thinking, but it's not formalized yet. Okay.
I'm not sure that that's fine.
Also, I just want to acknowledge they had the Mount Pearl Sport Alliance had the free skate and the little banquet on a week ago Monday, and it was nice. There was quite a few people out to the family skate, and they had a little soup and sandwich function upstairs.
We had
thereafter.
fun. We had fun.
And of course the new chair, Mr. Rice. I forget Mr. Rice. Jerry. It was nice to meet him. He's enthusiastic. He's excited. He's energetic. So it's nice to see there seems to be new life into the Mount Pearl Sport Alliance. And again, it was a nice opportunity to certainly acknowledge all the volunteers and all the community groups and the great job that they do. And that's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
I thank you very much. I will entertain a motion then to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Ledwell. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.